You know, when you look at a family tree, it can seem like just a bunch of names and dates, right? But sometimes, if you dig a little deeper, those branches tell these incredible stories, full of tragedy, rebellion, and even lost kingdoms. So today, we're going to trace one of those trees, a story that connects our modern world all the way back to one of history's most famous and most ill-fated royal families.
Our story actually starts right here. In the present day, we find this name in a modern family tree, H.E. Cardinal L. Samantha Wise. Now, at first glance, it's just a name. But when you start digging, like a genealogist would, when you start tracing those lines back, you uncover a connection that is anything but ordinary. It leads to a figure from the past, tied by a really peculiar thread.
Okay, you have to see this. Look at this relationship string. I mean, that is a mouthful, isn't it? It looks like a crazy puzzle. This, right here, is the kind of discovery that makes a genealogist's heart absolutely race. Who is this super distant yet weirdly specific relative? And what kind of story does a connection this tangled hide? Well, this exact thread, it unravels to reveal a prince. To really get this connection, we have to jump back in time. But we're not going to some grand English palace. No, we're heading to the sun-drenched streets of 18th century Rome. And it's here that we meet the central figure of our entire story.
And here he is, Charles Edward Stuart. You've probably heard of him as Bonnie Prince Charlie, right? The romantic, dashing hero from all the Scottish legends. The young pretender who made that famous attempt to reclaim his family's throne. But, you know, the actual records, they tell a much more complicated and, honestly, a much more tragic story.
This right here shows you the incredible paradox at the very heart of the Stuart story. On the one hand, you have the claim, King of England, Scotland, and Ireland. That was his birthright. And on the other hand, what was his reality? A prince with no kingdom, born in Rome, living off charity from the Pope. This wasn't just a political issue for him, it was the entire story of his life. This huge, grand title with an empty, hollow reality behind it.
And his life was really marked by loss from the very beginning. Look at this timeline. He's born into exile in 1720. 5 years later, his only brother, Henry, is born. But then, in 1735, a truly devastating blow. His mother, Maria Clementina, passes away. Charles was only 14 years old. Can you imagine being raised with the weight of a lost throne on your shoulders and then suddenly having to carry it without your mother? That loss shaped the man he would become in a really deep way.
So this is the crucial point, and it just begs the question. As a genealogist, you can't just look at the what happened. You have to dig for the why. Why was this royal family, a family with a legitimate claim to the British throne, living a life of subsidized exile in Italy, of all places?
To answer that, we've got to go even further up the family tree. Their very existence in Rome was the end result of a political and religious firestorm that had been raging in Britain for generations. See, they weren't just a family, they were the living symbols of a movement.
And that movement was called the Jacobites. The name comes from Jacobus, which is just Latin for James. For decades, the Jacobites plotted and schemed and fought to put the exiled Stuart line back in power. Bonnie Prince Charlie, he was literally born to be the living embodiment of that cause. He was their great final hope.
And to get why they were exiled in the first place, we have to look at his grandfather, King James II. He was a true believer in the divine right of kings, this idea that his power came directly from God, not from the people. That and his conversion to Catholicism put him on a collision course with a very Protestant parliament. It all ended in the Glorious Revolution of 1688, where he was kicked off the throne and forced to flee. He was the king who lost it all, and he's the one who set this whole tragedy in motion.
But the roots of this conflict go even deeper. Go back one more generation, and you find Bonnie Prince Charlie's great-grandfather, King Charles I. His own power struggles with Parliament blew up into the English Civil War, and in 1649, something that was just unthinkable happened. A reigning British king was publicly tried and executed by his own people. That single event just shattered the nation and set the stage for a century of chaos.
And if we trace it all the way back, we find maybe the most famous and tragic Stuart of them all, Mary, Queen of Scots. Her powerful claim to the English throne, rivaling her cousin Queen Elizabeth I, is really what started the centuries-long Stuart ambition that would define her entire family line. Her own execution tragically foreshadowed the fate that seemed to haunt her descendants. This is the immense weight of history that was resting on Bonnie Prince Charlie's shoulders.
Which brings us right back to him, Charles Edward Stuart. He wasn't just another prince, he was the culmination of all this history. He was the final, desperate gamble to reverse the family's fortune and reclaim every single thing that had been lost. But as we all know, it was a dream that was never going to come true. His famous attempt to take back the throne in 1745, well, it started with these brilliant victories, but it ended in a brutal, catastrophic defeat. The Jacobite cause was crushed for good, and Charles's own fate is just perfectly captured by this quote: "A life that began and ended in the same city of exile, never to rule." I mean, just look at the facts laid bare in the records. Born in Rome, died in Rome. He's even buried in Vatican City, the very heart of the Catholic world that sheltered his family, but a world away from the Protestant kingdom he was supposed to rule. His entire life is bookended by the city of his exile.
So, with the death of Bonnie Prince Charlie and then his brother, Henry, the direct male line of the Stuart kings, it just died out. The grand political quest was finally over. But here's the thing, a bloodline is not a crown. And as any genealogist will tell you, the family tree always finds a way to keep growing.
That royal bloodline didn't just disappear into thin air. Nope, it continued, flowing down through other branches of the family, through cousins and distant relatives, just weaving its way through the centuries, far, far away from the spotlight of history.
And this is exactly how we get back to where we started. That royal line flows through a 16th century knight, a Sir Thomas Darcy. And then look what happens. Over the centuries, it passes through families with names like Mackie and Beveridge. You know, common Scottish names. The royal bloodline just mixes into the general population until we finally arrive right here. Robert King Beveridge Wise, born in 1933, the father of H.E. Cardinal L. Samantha Wise, the very person we started with.
And just like that, the epic drama of Mary Queen of Scots, of executed kings and exiled princes, it all flows down through the generations and lands right here. It's not just a history lesson anymore, it's a personal, real, tangible piece of one family's heritage. The vast distance of time and status just collapses into a direct line on a chart.
It's just such a powerful reminder that history isn't just something that happens to other people in textbooks. It's a story we are all a part of, with connections that can completely surprise and fascinate us. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. What epic stories of lost kingdoms, distant knights, or quiet, everyday heroes lie hidden, waiting to be discovered in your family tree?